Today, we're going to learn how to write a response for the line graph in IELTS Writing Task 1. The most important thing here is not to copy all the numbers. The secret is to understand the story of the graph, how the graph tells it. Before writing, we need to take a good look at the graph. The idea is not to memorize ready-made phrases, to mechanize, but to understand what is happening, what goes up, what falls, what stays stable, and which information really deserves to appear in the answer. Let's go.
Okay, what is a line graph? Okay, a line graph shows changes. It shows changes over time. Usually it presents years, months, or periods, one or more lines. Each line shows a category that changed. So before writing, the student needs to ask themselves, what changed? What grew? What exactly has gone down? And what has actually remained stable? Before writing any sentence, the student needs to think. Don't start writing immediately, because then the answer becomes a list of numbers. First, look at the graph and try to understand the general idea. The main question is, what is happening with this graph? A very common mistake is trying to describe every number. This makes the answer heavy, confusing, and mechanical, which isn't good. In IELTS, the examiner wants to see if the student can select important information. In other words, it's not quantity, it's selection, it's comparison, it's clarity. The ideal structure for a line graph has 4 paragraphs. Introduction, overview, body paragraph 1, and body paragraph 2. The first, which is the introduction, is where the student paraphrases the question. The second, which is the overview, which is mandatory for a good grade. Then come the 2 detailed paragraphs organized in a logical way. I'd like you to take just a moment and look right over here and try to understand this graph a bit. Right, 1 line, 2, 3, and 4, right? This line here is going up. And this one right here is staying pretty stable, isn't it? This one had a drop and then started to gradually go up. And this one here was staying stable, and then all of a sudden it dropped in the year 2015. The year is on this side, and over here is the number of students. Okay, so let's move on. In the introduction, the student does not need to invent absolutely anything whatsoever at all. They just need to rewrite the question using different words. And going back to that graph, what kinds of questions would you ask about this particular graph? What's the general trend? Which category increased the most? Which category decreased? Which category remained the most stable? What was the highest number? That's important to ask. What was the lowest number? Were there any significant changes in the middle of the period? Which categories can be compared? How can I organize the details into 2 paragraphs? To avoid repeating shows over and over, students can use more academic verbs. But be careful. You don't need to use difficult words just to sound fancy. The sentence needs to be natural, clear, and correct. In the IELTS, clarity is worth more than being fancy. It demonstrates, illustrates, presents, compares, provides information about, and gives data on, for example. Back to the graph. Now, we're actually going to write the overview. And before we get into the overview, I'll ask the following questions. What was the main change in the graph for the overview in your view? Which line overall showed the clearest growth? Did any line remain relatively stable? Did any line fall first and then rise? Which category had the lowest numbers? Overall, what needs to appear in the general summary without many numbers? Let's take a moment to talk about the overview. The overview, as you might know, is actually one of the paragraphs in this context. Most important. Those questions I just asked, they are for the overview. The overview shows that the student understood the graph as a whole. Here, normally we don't put many numbers. The goal is to summarize the main trends. If the student doesn't write a clear overview, the task achievement score, which is one of the IELTS criteria, drops a lot. This overview works well. It's right here. Overall, the number of students from Asia increased significantly over the period, while figures for Europe remained relatively stable. North America showed a decline at first before rising sharply towards the end, whereas Africa experienced only minor fluctuations. He says that Asia increased quite a bit. Europe remained relatively stable. North America fell first and then rose. Africa had small fluctuations. We're not describing all the numbers, nor can we describe all the numbers in the overview. We're telling the general story of the graph. Line graphs need trend vocabulary. The student needs to know how to talk about something that went up, fell, or stayed stable, but also needs to use it correctly. For example, the figure increased gradually. There was a steady increase in the figure. Okay? So both forms are correct, but the grammar changes. When I say there was a decrease, I won't really get into the grammar here, but I'm talking about a noun. And when I say the figure increased, I'm talking directly about a verb, which is very important, one of the most important parts as well. When we use the verb, we say the number increased. When we use nouns, we say there was an increase in the number. You can see it here, right? I use the adverb to intensify the verb and the adjective to intensify it's a noun. And well, moving on. Now I ask you for a moment, consider this. Everyone knows what a verb and an adverb are, and what an adjective and a noun are. The verb, it goes directly with the adverb. And the adjective with the noun, the student needs to learn how to combine words. If using the verb, we need the adverb to intensify it. If using the adjective, we need the noun, and the adjective intensifies the noun. As we show here, the verb and the adverb, the adjective and the noun. This avoids overly basic sentences and improves grammatical control. Now I ask you, if you will, please, which numbers are actually really important when you think about it? Which numbers do you think can be left out of the list? Which categories increased? Which categories remained stable or fluctuated? What comparisons need to be made? Is the organization clear to the reader? We need to ask ourselves all of this. And let's move on to the body paragraphs, which is where I ask these questions. In the body paragraph, the student finally includes numbers, but even so, not all of them. They should choose the most important data points and make comparisons. One paragraph can discuss the categories that showed an increase. Another can cover the categories that remained stable or fluctuated. How should you organize the details? The organization depends on the graph. Sometimes it's better to separate by the lines. Sometimes it's better to separate by time, but the student should never write in a random way. Each paragraph must have a logical flow. As you can see right here, body paragraph 1, categories with clear increases. Body paragraph 2, categories with stability, decrease, or fluctuations. Body paragraph 1, for by time, first half of the period. Body paragraph. So you're going to divide it according to but it's either one or the other, okay? Either by time or by trend, okay? And the organization depends on the graph, as I've already said. Body paragraph example 1. This paragraph talks about the categories that increased. As you can see, looking at the details, the number of Asian students rose steadily from around 60 in 1995 to approximately 120 in 2015. Asia rose at a steady rate. North America fell first, but afterwards it recovered. Is there a number? Is there a comparison? And there's a trend. That's what the IELTS wants to see. North America experienced overall increase despite contrast initial fall from about 40 to just under 30 in 2005. It has numbers. It has contrast. It has comparison. It has trends. Body paragraph 2. This is the second paragraph. It shows contrast. Second paragraph, contrast. Europe remained stable. Africa had the lowest numbers and a slight fluctuation. The phrase by contrast helps to connect the ideas. This improves the coherence and cohesion of the IELTS criteria. Let's move on. In graphs, the numbers you see are oftentimes not always precise or exact, so the student shouldn't invent precision. If it looks like 50, write around 50. If it's approximately a bit below 30, just write it as just under 30 on the scale. If it's, above, it's just a little bit over 100 actually. And so using all the little words we can use, it's important to use academic approximation words. These here are actually the mistakes that really hurt the score the most. Task 1, it doesn't ask for an opinion. You're not supposed to explain why that happened. It's also essential to use the correct verb tense. If the graph is in the past, use the past tense. No need to explain the reasons, and that's how it is. Don't repeat vocabulary. Don't forget to do the overview. And in the overview, don't write numbers. Don't write down every number. Group them. Don't describe everything, but select the main information. Also use trend vocabulary, comparison numbers, approximations, and organization. IELTS doesn't want a list of numbers. It wants an organized, clear, and objective response. When the student understands the graph's story, writing becomes much easier. If you want to learn IELTS in an organized way, step by step, the 10-week course was created for that. In it, you learn writing task 1, writing task 2, speaking, reading, and listening, structure, examples, and practice. All of this I will put for you in the bio very soon. See you in the next video, and don't forget to give it a like.